we are going to be talking about compliance. So welcome, Dr. Ashley, to our webinar this month. So I think basically when we talk about compliance, it's a certain feeling. Please do share your thoughts on the definition I'm going to be putting forward here, Dr. Ashley, because I consider that it's more of a feeling of smugness or an uncritical state of satisfaction that we develop for what we are and what we do. And it's also got to do with the belief in success or the perceived success that we may be in, which also tends to cause us to be complacent in life, whether it's personal or in professional life. So I think one of the most critical aspects here is that it is a certain state of, you can call it oblivious state of being very, very satisfied about where we are and what we do, and not look beyond, or let's say not look at situations that could appear to be fearful, but there are pathways that we need to move forward so that we can become a better version of what we are. So I think that the two ways that complacency hinders our growth is the fact that it keeps us from being challenged. Number one, it also blinds us from the areas in our life that are stagnant currently. So when I talk about stagnancy, I have to admit that years ago, when I was in school and when I was doing my degree as well, I just went through the path of learning. It never excited me. And I was never a good student as well. Well, not surprisingly, if you're not really thrilled about the whole concept of what we are learning, we may not necessarily have that attitude, or we may just be maybe pure lazy about learning at that point of time. But it was years later that I think I started noticing that no, I would like to learn. I would like to improve. I would like to become better at whatever I'm doing currently, which also got me out of the state of complacency, which I was in. So I think to combat it, the first step would be to surround ourselves with people who challenge us.
Yeah.
And talking of people who challenge us, I think ironically, I've always had friends who have been toppers in the class. I've often wondered what they probably saw in me to have such a lovely friendship with me. But interestingly, I've always had, right from the time I was in kindergarten to my college years, I've always had some of the best students in the class as my good friends.
Right.
And I think probably they may have also inspired me today to challenge myself and become better. So maybe they weren't able to inspire me at that point of time, but much later. And like you said, I think doing things every day that we may not necessarily enjoy doing is also another way to combat complacency and to recharge ourselves, which I think is very, very important, because recharging helps us to become more energized, to do better and work on ourselves better as well. What are the threats that you see which can affect our personal and professional life due to complacency?
A threat is when the person does not see the need to grow, when an individual, because, being happy with the status quo is one thing, but losing interest of self-improvement or self-awareness of your own weaknesses and your own strengths and what do you need to improve. It's always, we should always seek to be better than we are currently. So, that to me, the minute we stop learning, that would be a big threat. Because we should continuously learn. There's so much to learn in this world, professionally and personally, that would improve ourselves, our relationship with others, all of that. Another thing to me is that we should really develop the skills of being reflective. And here, what I mean is, as a teacher, I haven't taught the last few years now. 4 years. I've just been working in an office. But as a teacher, to me, the core thing about a teacher is to always reflect upon the experiences they had with their students. So when you teach a lesson, when you teach a module or something, you don't need to just go back to your office and close that textbook or your notes and never reflect on that experience you just had with a group of students, because the students change, their profile change. Every semester you would have different learners, and you also are growing and changing. So to me, reflective practices are really um, impactful. And actually, now at my university, we try to tell faculty that high impact practices are so crucial for the learner and for the teacher as well. And that high impact practice, one of the practices is reflective practices, thinking about what went wrong, what went well, how was my experience, my class, what did I do that was successful, that I would keep it, what should I change, what could I modify. Again, the teacher is learning and from the experience. So as an individual, we should always be reflective, and in our personal lives, the growths that we achieve, either annually, how many workshops did I attend, what did I gain out of it, how comfortable am I with my work, how is this impacting my work life balance. So those the thread is when we don't do those, when we don't do a reflection, and the thread is when we stop learning.
What are the hazards that you are seeing in the workplace? Because when it comes to workplace, I think we have not just hazards in the form of safety hazards, but we are also having hazards in terms of things that are kind of causing us more distractions and problems than otherwise. Would you like to elaborate on that, Dr. Astley?
We could all say, no social media access. You can't go on your phone. You can't go on YouTube. You can't do that. We could create those restrictions in the workplace, and rightly so. Because when you are at work and you're paid to do a job, you should not be distracted by all of these other uh, tools. However, to me, that it's just policing it, policing an individual. How
Correct.
often would I check a person's whether they got on Instagram or social media or why, So I feel that the people have to be motivated and they
Correct.
have to be enthusiastic about their job.
Absolutely.
And I always feel that when a person loves what they do, then you don't need to put any restrictions. There's no need. You don't have to say you can't go to social media. They wouldn't even think about it because they love what they do. And to me, you know, we should actually select a profession or a job that we really love. Like we love getting up in the morning. We love going to whatever job we have. We are enthusiastic. We care to what we are contributing, whatever it is. If it's cleaning a bathroom, okay, you would do the best you can to that job. There's no job that is low or not good. Any job. I love when I see a waiter or a janitor that loves their job. They radiate happiness. They radiate intelligence. I love that. I can tell when someone loves what they're doing. And to me, it's worth all of the happiness, because they do the best they can. They put their best effort. So I really feel that people should choose a profession that they get super excited and love. I myself, I was supposed to become a teacher. I hated it as a teenager. I refused to go to the teachers' college. I went to study accounting. And my third year when I finished my third year of accounting, I got a summer job. And I was an accountant working with the main accountant person. And the lady, I was her assistant, and I did all of the payroll. I was perfect. I rarely made any mistakes. Actually, I caught some mistakes she made. And this was during the time with the, not calculators, but these little machines. We had to tally the numbers. But I was such a perfectionist that I would work overtime, sit there until all of the payroll was done. But I hated the job. It was so boring. I was in a room with no windows. I was sitting all day long by myself. I was looking at balance sheets and flipping and writing, making sure that the right checks were printed. It was really boring. And as soon as I was done with that internship, I was like, you know what? Actually, I don't want to be an accountant. I know I'll make more money, but I never loved money. So I was like, nah, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to become a teacher. So, so I think we have to go with our heart, and we have to go with the job that we really love. We
Ah,
have to know ourselves first,
absolutely.
and yeah, and choose something you really like, and then be enthusiastic and do the best you can, and put your effort, see where you lack some skills, develop those skills, or bring people with you who will help you with, that have your weaknesses there, it's their strengths. So you could achieve, you can be successful in whatever you do.
So, as an educator, what are your tips regarding how we can challenge ourselves for a greater existence of excellence to avoid complacency?
Read. Read. um I love to read, and I think one of the ways you could really enrich your mind and yourself, it will be, learning. Always be open to learn. Be open to learn, if you can, if you have the opportunity, new language, new something that you're not comfortable with, like new technology. um yeah, so I think that those are the things that will enrich you. And then at the end of the year, look at it, and see, how much money did you spend on self-development. I mean, I do take courses. I love taking courses, but there are some courses that my employer is willing to support, and some that I have to pay out of my own pocket. And I usually, i'm I'm not good in, I don't do a lot of budgeting, but my husband is better on that. But I do ballpark in my mind every year. I say, okay, I'm going to spend around this amount to to self-development. And then at the end of the year, I have a little book, I write it, and I see, oh,
Okay.
I took three webinars, three courses, I spent this much money. It was within my budget, and it was for self-development. So I think I started doing that the last, as I have gotten older.
Now,
And
I think sorry to interrupt you. I think
yeah,
that's a great way to grow and
yeah,
also have an idea of how much you have grown every year.
Yes.
and also what area you want to grow.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And I am my biggest weakness was personal development. Like I did not, like emotions. I come from a culture where your emotions, you just keep it to yourself. You don't explore it. And I had to now push myself and take some courses that would help me, and I feel like when I take it, I say, oh, I wish I knew when I was in my 30s. Oh my God, I would have made different decisions in my life.
No, in fact, actually, when you talk about emotions, I think
Yeah.
what I'd like to mention to you here is for many of us. I mean, I have to admit, I came from a background, or rather, I come from a background where emotions were encouraged to be expressed. So hence,
Weren't encouraged.
no, they
They
were
were.
they
Ah,
were
okay.
encouraged. And I think it
Lucky
made a,
you.
yeah, God's grace, because I think it made a huge difference to the way how I perceive the world. I perceive people, I perceive my relationships. And which is also the reason why I find I'm very easily able to express myself. It's like I don't think, oh my God, will the person think that, why am I so expressive? And what if the person is not how I imagine the person to be? That's okay.
Yes. Yes, yes.
And I think
Lucky
that's
you. You were
no,
lucky. I didn't come from that. I was not brought up that way. Yeah.
no, it's just
Yeah.
it's just God's grace, and I think that's especially thanks to my dad, who was always very expressive by nature, and he would always encourage that thoughts are shared, and you also explore the world around, and like you said, through books primarily, so that you're
Yes.
also able to understand not just the world but yourself better.
Yes.
So
No,
and
I was a reader. Yeah. I've always comforted myself with books, and I still love reading, and I escape when I read, I just totally feel like, in a different world. So yeah, I love reading. Yes, for pleasure. Yeah.
comes to combating or overcoming compliance is we decide to explore, like you said, feel free more to explore and to also look beyond what might make us comfortable. And the number two, or the step two, would be to reduce the dependency that we have currently on technology, because we've got so used to having technology at our fingertips, including keeping us away from boredom. Are we actually utilizing some of the age old or ancient wisdom where we are asked to explore to find ourselves? So I think that is also very important. And number three, like you said, keep learning. Because the more and more we are looking at avenues to learn, improve, and grow, we're going to not be compliant and also asking for what we want. In fact, when I'm talking about this point here, I think I'd like to mention to you, Dr. Ashley, that many years ago, when I had just started on my pathway of learning, I used to always think, probably because I had come from a background where I was not a good student. So, what happens is when you're not a good student, you start thinking that no, I can't ask that question because I'm going to be perceived so silly, because already your confidence level about yourself is low.
Right.
So when I started on this learning and pathway, and that's when I realized that there are no questions that are not worthy to be answered. And the more we are going to be afraid about being seen as, oh, you're asking a silly question, we're not going to know the answer. So would we like to be not aware about the answer because we are afraid of being seen as silly? Now that is something that we need to decide and ask ourselves. So asking for what we want, asking or finding out some of the matters we want to is so crucial here, and have difficult conversations. The sixth point is about taking risks, like I think you had mentioned, taking risks and being more decisive when it comes to exploring or moving around, planning for the future. Where do you see yourself? Where do we see ourselves 10 years from now? And also, what are you doing about things that you don't like about? I think that's also a question that takes us on a pathway away from complacency, because
Yeah.
if you're going to just not do anything about things you don't like, it is definitely a way that you're telling yourself that you're happy being complacent. And of course, last but not least, is about not giving up. So I think that also adds to the fact that we are less likely to be complacent here. And we now move on to the third question here, that at what stage did you realize the importance of not being complacent? Or if you have never been complacent, how have you helped others overcome the tendency to be complacent in their life? It could be through personal relationships, or it could be even in your workplace as well.
Um, I, to be honest with you, just reflecting upon my past, I, it's just my nature and my, my personality. I'm not a complacent person. I'm
When
not. Yeah. Uh, but how did I help others? I think I am easily approachable. Like people I work with, people I supervise, people that are colleagues. I am a non-threatening, just my personality, my nature, and I tend to be I feel I aggravate to like towards being a mentor or coach or just give providing guidance, when people need. So definitely, yes, I do. I feel like my enthusiasm is contagious. I personally feel it is. So
I love
so
the way you say how your enthusiasm is contagious. Yes,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is. I
It,
completely agree with you. Yeah.
yeah, because when I bring a new initiative or something, first of all, I have to have a buy-in myself. I have to really believe in it. But conveying that message to my team, usually I bring it with enthusiasm. I show them why I think this is a very effective initiative, why it will help them grow, why it's going to be, good for their future and for their career. Because I don't want to bring initiatives that it's only for the gain of the department. I want them to see that they gain something out of it as well, in personally. And that's the reason why I always do my job. I don't do it just for the job. If it's just for the job, then I'm not motivated. I have to see greater good, why I'm doing this, what is the contribution I'm making. And there are times that I they would not buy into it and say, we don't want to do it. And I have to be also be open to accept that. And that it's not like I'm in charge. I try to bring an idea, show them my reasons, but at the same time, when they don't want to, they show me areas that I haven't thought about it, we'll back off, and it'll be like, okay, we'll put it under the table, let's go do something else that they suggested. So I think that is the way I approach my work life. At home, the same thing. Being a mother, you're always comforting, you're disciplining, so I have taken these roles. There's no book of parenting book, but you learn from experience. And there are times that I was not successful, and there are times that I was successful. But overall, I think it's just being open, and not being like, if things don't go your way, it's okay. Everything doesn't have to go your way. These are the realizations that that I learned, but I think people, the earlier they learn, the better it is. That life, there are times that you are, you succeed, and there are times that you don't succeed. I tell my team always that I if we do something wrong, let's say there's some mistakes that we make or some error happens, I usually take the blame. I don't blame my team. I don't want to find out whose fault was it, all of that. I don't want it has to be a learning experience. Of course, all of us have to learn from it. We should not repeat the same mistake again if we can avoid it.
Absolutely.
However,
Yeah.
however, I'll take the blame. And my reason for doing that is I know the literature says that too. Leaders should take the blame. But my argument is I take the blame because the 99% of the time that they do great work, guess who takes the light and the accolades? I get
Correct.
it.
Absolutely.
So if
Absolutely.
I am taking the accolades, I should also take that 1% that they made mistakes. So I think life is like that. We always are okay to get all of the good things, but when we have a little challenge, we like break down. We don't know how to handle, we're upset with the person. No. What about the 99% of the time that this person was great and did all of their work and they've been nice to you? And so yeah, it's really just being mindful.